Let me start today's episode by saying something that is gonna bother a lot of you guys. Your entry, talking about the entry into the trade, doesn't matter as much as you think it does. Hey guys, Akil here. Welcome back to another episode of the Trading Coach Podcast. If that opening line made you uncomfortable, good, because today we're going to talk about one of the biggest misconceptions in trading and why obsessing over the perfect entry is often the very thing holding you back from whatever that next level of your trading progression is. Now, a quick heads up before we fully dive in. This is another video episode, which means you can watch it over on YouTube or on Spotify, or of course, just listen on your favorite podcasting app. And while I have you, do me a favor if you haven't done so already, please take a quick minute. You can do it while you're listening to this to leave the podcast a rating and a review. We're often credited with being one of the top trading podcasts out there. At least that's what all the AI things tell me and all the people that respond tell me. I would love to be the top, number one, and I need your support to make that happen. So take a second to do that, please. All right, jumping into it now. The other day on YouTube, I put out a video called How Consistent Traders Analyze Any Trade. And this video was a full trading walkthrough of an opportunity we looked at in our live room and showed a perfect example of the 4-step process that I preach and teach, IPDE. If you're unfamiliar with what that is, you need to spend more time here on the YouTube channel. But for now, I will let you know I is identify, P is predict, D is decide, and then E is execute the order. So I is essentially, what do I see in the market? P is based off what I see, what do I think the market is going to do? D is decide, now that I have an idea of what I think the market is going to do, how can I likely get involved in it? What do I have to wait for or see to get involved in the trade? And then E, oh my gosh, now that that signal is here, let me actually push the trigger and get fully in. Now, throwing you back once again in episode 1271 of the Trading Coach Podcast, we also spoke a little bit about the difference between learning what to trade, meaning just like the different concepts of trading, versus real life application, meaning learning how to actually trade the markets and how you need to, connect those things that you are learning to all the other things and predictions that you're doing in the market. And this got me thinking, what part of this 4-step process, IPDE, do traders actually struggle with the most? And after hours of careful deliberation, about 30 seconds or so, I created a poll and put it on my YouTube community for you guys to answer. And when the responses came back, it looked a little something like this. Now, real quick, if you go back and look at the poll, people are still answering it, so these numbers may shift. But as of this recording, the poll said 17% said they struggle with the I phase the most. That means identifying, like actually knowing and seeing what's happening on the chart. Another 17% said they struggle with the P phase, right? 17% of you struggle to P. I couldn't help myself. I'm sorry. I'm getting old and it's going to be me soon. So I got to get these jokes out while I'm still young before it becomes sad. But 17% of you said they struggle with making a prediction. So you can see what's on the chart, but you don't actually know how to predict what's going to happen next. If you see me looking over here, it's because I have a chart up, so I'm actively looking at it. I'm not just like staring into space, right? Now, only 7% struggled with the D. That was deciding how to get involved, and that was a little bit surprising. I thought that would actually be the main struggle part, because the decision comes from having a fully flushed out rules-based trading plan. And I would assume, right, I'm sorry to judge, we shouldn't make assumptions, but I would assume, and I'm sure you would too, that most traders don't have a fully developed trading plan. So I thought this would be the struggle part. But when I thought about it more, I also realized that most traders don't think they need a fully developed trading plan, or most traders don't even know that they need a fully developed trading plan. They just can get in however the hell they want to get in, so it's not a problem when you can do whatever the hell you want. So it does make sense that this is 7%. And finally, if you're doing the math, you're like, Akil, man, there's a big number that's left. A whopping 59% said E. Executing their order, actually getting involved in the trade, is by far the hardest part of this 4-step process, which actually isn't too surprising knowing what we know about trading psychology. I guess it's also not surprising because, well, I've worked with newer traders for the past, 15 years now, and one of the biggest struggles that we see is going from being able to actually do technical analysis to clearing that obstacle of having the guts, the confidence, the belief to actually get involved in a trade and pull the trigger. So in a way, the poll results came back pretty close to what I expected them to, but here is what caught me off guard. I did a follow-up after 30 seconds more of careful deliberation, and I put another poll asking, of that 59% that said they struggle with the execution, I asked whether you struggled more with finding a reason for entry, I know that I should be involved in the trade, but I don't know how to get involved in the trade, or was it more with confidence where it was yeah, I know where to get involved in the trade. Yeah, I know what I'm supposed to look for and wait for to get involved in a trade. Just whenever it comes time to do it, I do like this. You guys ever do that where you're supposed to push that buy button and you're grabbing your hand and you're just you just get stuck, right? The good old paralysis analysis. I've done that far too many times. Start sweating and shaking. And I was curious which of those traders actually struggle with. And when the votes were tallied, right, and we came up with a final answer, at least by the time of this recording, because as I'm checking it, it's the other one is making a comeback. Having a reason for entry was the winner or the loser, the best struggle, which is good, bad? I don't know. But anyway, this surprised me because, again, trading psychology is what stops most traders from having success. So I thought it would be the freeze up versus the getting involved, right? I just assumed most traders just do whatever the hell they want to get involved, and they, learn valuable lessons, and eventually they learn that they need rules, and then trading psychology becomes a thing. But in the back of my mind, I guess I figured that, at least in the beginning, a majority of the traders that answered this poll are probably newer traders. And with newer traders, they're not too concerned with trading psychology. They are searching for that secret sauce, right? And again, it's not necessarily a negative thing. I just think trading psychology is one of those things you don't value until you're kind of in the mix, right? And I was the same way. When I first started trading, I didn't really think trading psychology was a thing. I told you guys a story before, right? The first thing I got from my mentor, so in going kind of a brief version of my trading journey, I was really, really good in stocks. I went to Forex thinking I would be really, really good in Forex, and I went from fundamental analysis to technical analysis. I was really, really bad. I found a mentor by accident. That mentor called me up. He did a trade evaluation. I was shamed to the point where I had to accept that I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was unconscious incompetencing, and I didn't even know I was. I signed up for this trader who ended up being my mentor, my coach's course. And I was excited because in the back of my mind, I thought I had done the job, right? I paid money, I signed up for a course, and everything would be good. And I'm all excited. I start Monday, and I'm like, ooh, I can't wait. I'm going to get this secret system that I've been hunting for this whole time. And you know what I got? I got a PDF document, a 90-page PDF document, all words, right? No charts, right? And it was about trading psychology. And the thing in the email that I got said, new trader, read this first. And back then, this is before courses were kind of sign up when you want. I did this as well when I did my first training course, but my mentor would only offer courses a certain times during the year. So it'd be like, hey, this course is going to run from January to March, and then it's gone, and then we'll reset in June. And each part of the course, each section was only given out 1 week at a time, right? So I can see all that was there to be learned, but I only had access to one thing at a time. And I still think this is the best way to train traders because a lot of people rush through, and by giving you one step at a time, kind of like in that previous podcast, it forces you to do your action items. It forces you to invest a significant amount of time on that item or topic at hand and not rush to the next one. Now, I understand the business side as well from the other side, where it's it would stink if you wanted to learn how to trade and you missed the sign up and it's January and now you got to wait 3 months because you're more likely to do just dumb stuff or fall for some scammy guy out there because you want to get started. So I do understand that, but it is a really efficient way because it forces patience. Anyway, so all I had at my disposal was the dreams and desires of the rest of the course material with all the cool, fun, shiny stuff that I wanted to learn. And all I had was this 90-page document on trading psychology. And my initial response was, what the blank? But because I was dedicated, I did read it. And in hindsight, it was the most valuable thing I ever read. And I remember talking to my mentor, and I'm like, look, I got a question for you, man. Like, why the hell did you give us a 90-page document to read? And he said, Akil, if you're not focused enough to and dedicated enough to focus on your trading psychology right now, then you're not someone I want to work with, because I know you're never going to make it. So he was weeding us out by giving us like the hardest task, the most boring task in the world at first. And if we were strong enough to brave through that challenge and that obstacle, we would be rewarded with the glory of whatever the other stuff that we learned. Anyway, that's my long story to say that most newer traders don't value trading psychology, and that's okay. It's not okay, it's bad, but it's okay because I did the same thing. It's natural. It's not okay, don't get me wrong. It's not good. You should value trading psychology, but it is natural not to value it until you get into the market and you start making the psychological mistakes and you're like, oh crap, I really should value this stuff. Anyway, back to the point at hand as I focus, the majority of traders that answered that poll said what they struggled with the most out of trading psychology and reason for entry was the reason for entry, which prompted me to shout as loud as I could, your entry doesn't matter, ... that much, because it does matter a little bit. So another story time for you. We're going to take it down memory lane again because I'm old and I'm reminiscing, and that's what I do. When I first started trading, 2 words could describe me. Wild, aggressive. I mean, I was a straight up gunslinging cowboy. The mouse was my weapon. The money was my bullets. And I was just slinging it everywhere. Not very accurate, but I was slinging it and letting them fly. And don't get me wrong, this was fun, this was exciting, I was having the time of my life, but I was also going really, really broke really quickly, which wasn't so fun. So anyway, after investing in my education, going through that 90-page document on trading psychology, I was still pretty dumb, I was still pretty stubborn, and it took me about a year or so to kind of get my mind in the right place and really focus on the things that mattered versus the things that I thought would matter. And when I made this shift from wild, reckless, gunslinging cowboy, right? I went to a very conservative approach. Oh, too tight. I went to a very conservative approach where I went from being very risky to needing every single signal and bit of proof in the world before I can ever get involved in a trade. That's better. Around the same time, one of my mentors, or actually both of my mentors, to be honest with you, Jason Stapleton and Todd Brown, they were at the point in their trading careers where they were getting more aggressive. And I remember this one trade in particular, right? So Jason shared with me an idea earlier in the day, and he was explaining like, hey, price is diving down to this level. I like this level. I think it's going to reverse, blah, 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 the normal stuff. But then he said something that caught me off guard. He said, hey, I'm going to put a limit order right in that level. I'll put my stop underneath that zone and boom, we'll see what happens. And I was like, okay. So he ended up taking us out to lunch, which made me excited because I like food. And we're sitting there and, he's looking on his deal and he's like, oh, I'm triggered. That's cool. And then before the steak came out, or I guess maybe midway through when the steak came out, while we're still finishing the steak, it was a really good steak, right? He was out of the trade for profit. And it was like amazing. It was nonchalant for him, but as still a newer trader who wasn't as aggressive yet, it was kind of cool being like, hey, this dude just like set an order. We went out to eat, got filled the order. We're eating, made money, paid for the meal with his trade. It was crazy because at the time I was the super conservative trader that would like be in front of my charts for like the whole day just waiting. Like, okay, here we go. Not yet, right? So it was just cool to see that amount of freedom that he had. And this is what people were talking about, where it's like your money is making money while you're doing nothing. Because we were literally eating and he was making money. It was really, really super cool. So the next day, after I'd settled down from being all fangirly-like and whatnot over, oh my gosh, that was crazy, I approached him like smooth. I'm like, hey man, just curious, that trade you took yesterday, right? Like act like you've been there. What made you get so aggressive? Like, how did you know it was gonna respond right there and then go right there? Like, what's the secret? And he told me this. He said, I had no idea where the exact reversal was going to happen at. But what I did know, or know as much as a trader can know, what I did predict was that if price action came into this zone, there was a likelihood of price reversing and going up, or a higher likelihood of price reversing and going up out of that zone before it went through that zone to where the stop loss would be. And personally, I didn't really care where I got involved in that zone. I didn't need to get involved at the very top. I didn't need to wait for the very bottom. There was no perfect entry. I just knew that because that zone was important, I wanted to have exposure while price was in that zone. And if I'm a few pips off, it doesn't matter because I still got what I came for. I don't need to make every single pip from a trade, which is another newer trader issue where you guys believe that you need to squeeze every single pip out of the markets. False. You just need to get what's yours and get out before you get hurt. And like you, up to that point, I was brainwashed about, as traders, we need to find the perfect entry. We need to squeeze the market as much as we can to get every pip. And this was the experience that really changed my mindset. It was extremely important. It made me realize that the entry didn't matter as much as the overall prediction. And when you make that shift, as a trader, it takes a massive amount of pressure off of your shoulders because, again, trying to be perfect is extremely hard. Like when I wake up in the morning, I spend hours brushing my hair trying to get it perfect. And I will sit there until it's absolutely spot on. And then one day I woke up and I said, I don't care. I'm just going to wake up and do a little of that. And look, you guys didn't even notice, did you? I'm bald. Yeah, if you guys are listening for the first time on the audio version, I'm bald. It's a joke. It makes it funny. But I did have hair at one point. Back then I did have hair, and it was a mess to kind of get settled. Go back and watch the old YouTube videos. You'll see. So this is the point of the podcast where I usually have like this awesome sports analogy for you, but I am drawing blanks right now. So I'm going to try something else. I can't promise it'll be perfect, but I'll try my best. Right? Let's try a fishing analogy. So full disclosure, I'm not a fisherman, so I don't know if this is actually true or not. I just go off of common sense and what I think fishing is. I caught one fish once. It was very small, and I gave it back, but that's the extent of my fishing knowledge. But imagine looking for the perfect entry as being kind of like spear fishing, right? Do I have a spear somewhere around here? Here we go, spear fishing. You wait for the exact right moment, and then... Sorry, I got a little bit too literal with the thing and throwing the pencil. But you wait for that perfect moment, you throw your spear, and if you're not precise, you miss. And the opportunity is probably gone. I assume the fish senses danger and it swims away somewhere, right? Jason's approach was more like, look, I know that there are fish in this area. I don't really care about the precision and where the exact fish are. So I'm just going to throw out a net in this zone. This would be your prediction zone. And sure, you might catch some junk, right? You know, there's a whole bunch of garbage and wasted plastics in the water. You may get some of that, but odds are there's also going to be a fish in there somewhere. So yeah, not my best analogy, and I'm breaking things in another podcast, but I hope that gets the point across. It's not necessarily about precision. It's just about getting the job done or completing the task at hand. So here's another way to think about it. Maybe this one's a little bit more clear. If you make a good directional prediction and enter anywhere in that zone, you can still win, even if your specific entry isn't perfect. But on the flip side, you can have the best entry in the world, but if your overall directional prediction is wrong, you're still going to fail, right? You see, so prediction should outweigh your entry. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that entries are pointless or anything like that. I'm just saying that if you can only choose one superpower to master, accurate predictions would be the one that is more important than accurate entries. With that being said, I like a nice little blend, right? Now, I'm not as conservative as I used to be, but I'm also not as aggressive as my mentors aside from a few standalone strategies that I trade. So my approach is this. I want to be really strong in my analysis. I want to be really good and accurate with the predictions that I make. And then I want to have multiple rules-based entries that allow me to get involved. So what I mean is that as price action gets into that level, I have first strike entry where I can get involved. If for some reason I don't get it or I miss it or the risk reward doesn't work, then I can go to second strike. If that doesn't work, I can go to third strike. So I'm making a prediction in that zone and I'm giving myself multiple opportunities to get involved. So instead of having one spear, I have 3 spears that I can throw. I'm not going to throw it this time. I learned my lesson last time, but I hope that makes sense. To sum it up, I'm not worried about being perfect in my entry, but I'm also not super confident in being that aggressive. So I exist somewhere in the middle where I want to wait for the market to give me some sort of clue that my prediction is more likely to be right and then wrong. And then as soon as I get that clue, then I want to pounce into the trade. Now, going back to the majority of you guys that says you struggle with having a reason for entry or knowing what your reason for entry is. Understand this, your entry doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to give you a hint. It just needs to give you a clue that your prediction is more likely to be right than wrong. And that reason could be anything. It could be a single candlestick opportunity like a pin bar. It could be a multiple candlestick pattern like tweezer bottoms, or a higher high, higher close, an engulfing candle, something like that. It could be a simple pattern formation, a double top, a double bottom, or something more complex like a 2618, a deceleration pattern, a head and shoulders. There are endless options ranging from the very aggressive to the very conservative, and of course, everything in between. Just remember this, your job as a trader isn't to look for the best entry, is to understand what is the best entry for you personally. If you're interested in learning more about this stuff and how it's practically applied, join us in the live trading room. We run it 3 days a week. There's a London session, there's a New York session. It's live, it's also recorded in case you can't make it live, but it's an awesome experience. You get to hang out with professional traders, you get to watch us analyze and break down charts, you get to ask questions, and best of all, you get to spend it with fellow traders. So you don't have to be a loser sitting by yourself. You can surround yourself with other losers like me on a daily basis. Anyway, it's available for your 14-day risk-free trial membership on the platform. Just head over to www.tier1trading.com to check it out. And remember, risk-free means there's no sneaky auto bill. We just want to give you a chance to experience what we have to offer so that you can make the best decision possible before deciding if you want to stay or if we're not for you. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Until next time, plan your trade, trade your plan. Take care.